Running Sentences presents The Lost Rider and His Tale, Part 11, A Storm of Issues. Victor deals with the fallout of the situation of everything which is coming down on him, and landing right on his lap. This story is narrated and written by Michael Hunnery. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Hunnery. All rights reserved. With the paper in hand, Stephen reads it over quickly in the hallway to the supposed abandoned industrial building. His two guards with guns pointed at Riley and Victor stood in front of it. There's no signature or name on this paper. Well, Stephen, it is a rather old piece of paper, but it is still a court order. Nor is there a date, Miss Riley. Stephen growled at her. That faded away, she explained. How did you even get this? Well, Riley gave it to me, Stephen. I thought that part was obvious, Victor said. I meant, it isn't believable that you know enough judges and lawyers to fake this, Riley. So is it real or is it not? It is. The order was signed by a judge 2 months ago, in secret, and at someone else's behest, not mine. Stephen growled at them, then turned and began just walking away. The two guards, though, held their positions, guns at the ready for anything. So, is that it? Is that all that he's going to do? Apparently. Excuse me, guards, but can we leave, or are you going to do something about us? You stay right there. Forever, guard? Until we're told otherwise. Well, that will not do at all. It doesn't have to do, miss. You stand there and do nothing. The thought of standing there and waiting for them to make the wrong move rang through Victor's mind. Were they just using this as a potential excuse to start shooting? Not likely, but he also couldn't fully rule that out. The question of moving or not dominated his mind, and he couldn't see a good answer to it. Victor interrupted. Shut up, no talking. A guard snarled at him. Right about now, you should run, Victor. The shout from Riley completely caught him off guard, and he had no idea where to run or to. The only spot that they had was a hope of luck, was the door behind them. But in a hallway that wasn't all that well lit and was a tight space to begin with, it didn't prove much of a hope for an escape. His feet, though, turned and began moving, taking him away from here. There was a window in this hallway that looked back to the parking lot, and one that was casting a decent amount of light into the room, even though it was the evening hour. It, though, was soon joined by a familiar look of red and blue flashing lights. Shit, the cops, a guard snarled. I told you, lot, that I have my connections. Why you would choose to ignore an important person that is me is beyond me. The two guards were thoroughly ignoring her comments as they backed away, guns still pointed towards him. Their nervousness made Victor duck away, as he didn't trust what might happen next. And sure enough, a loud bang echoed throughout the space. Then a deafening silence, and what followed was vague, but almost assuredly kind of footsteps running away. Riley! I'm fine, Victor. Get through that door. Not trusting anything, Victor took a look about the hallway before he got up. The last thing he wanted to see was a gunman pointing a pistol towards him. His glance showed him that the two figures were beating a hasty retreat, though their guns were still sort of pointed towards them, and looked like they wanted to shoot again. With that knowledge, Victor got to his feet and grabbed at the door. To his surprise, the door easily opened and led into a cubicle office space from hell. At first, the place looked like it went on and on with no end to it. Victor shook away that thought and concentrated on more important things. Roger wasn't anywhere near to be seen, nor were there any printing machines here. Fuck, what do I do now? No one is around. Anything interesting in there? No, an abandoned office hell of cubicles. Really? Yes, Riley, yes. She appeared by his side, holding her arm and grimacing a bit, while biting her lip. Damn it, where are those printers? I was hoping this would be a quick thing. Are you all right? Fine, follow me. She charges off down a little corridor that some cubicles had created. On the other end of that space, they found a staircase, one that led downward, and they looked at one another as they paused and listened for any noise to indicate this might be the right direction to go. It was faint, but there was a sound of humming coming from below where the stair was headed. That sounds like it could be something. Yes, it could be. Or it could be nothing. Weren't you eager to find out? Not completely, no. Things haven't gone well here, so it makes me wary, but we need to find evidence before those idiots realize what they saw isn't real. Wait, the cops? She shrugs to him. Great. That's so satisfying to hear. Shall I go first then, just because? Yes, you're going first. You didn't really have a choice in that matter. He stepped down the first of what was many steps that had a couple of levels to them. Every 15 or so of these steps would level out and then turn to the side, which then came to another set of stairs. The air was becoming warmer, which he wasn't sure if that was a good or a bad sign that things were getting different so quickly, but he hurried down those steps. The heat and warmth came to a lot by the time he'd gone down 7 flights of stairs. There was also now a lot of noise of printing machines whirring away doing their jobs. He could see a few workers here and there tending to the machines with yellow hard hats on their heads as they moved from the spot to spot, keeping an eye on things. Stop your work at once! Victor's voice was no competition for the machine, which easily drowned out his yell. A glance back to see where Riley was told him he was on his own at the moment, since she was nowhere to be seen. Of course. With a sigh, he began looking about the place until he spotted a big red button on the machine and stormed over to that. Without much thought and a whole lot of hope, he just slapped it. There was a soft beep, and then one that might have been much louder, but it was sort of hard to tell because his hearing still wasn't great. But things began to clunk, and then whirring slowly dies away. A hard-hatted worker runs up to him. What are you doing? Stopping your work, sir? Victor responded. Who gave you permission to do that? The police. There was the sound of footsteps approaching behind Victor, so he turned to thankfully see Riley now coming up. We work for the police already. What are you doing? This worker complained. No, you have been lied to, worker. You're working for a group of gangsters and thugs who are all in this for themselves. What's coming down on you now isn't going to be nice. Lots of cops, lots of questions, a whole lot of blame on you since, Mr. Stevens seems to have run away, Victor said to the worker. Best to talk to us so we can tell the cops that you weren't a major part of this, and we're only printing money. We weren't printing any money. Riley went over to one of the machines and ripped off a sheet of paper from it, holding it out for them to see. What is this? Newspaper. What do you think? No, it isn't. You don't print newspapers in this dirty environment. The press would complain to no end. And there is this. She held it further up to the light, showing the thin paper that had printing on both sides of it. There was also something that looked to be stuck between the sheets of paper. Well, that certainly looks weird, and, well, how did you even know that was there? Spotted as I ripped it off the press, Victor. There's plenty of light from the machine to make sure that people know what they're seeing. Anything done to the printings was done by someone else. We just monitor the machines. This worker was now taking a few steps backwards to get away from them, with their hands held up to show they were actually innocent. Victor snorted at the thought that they'd somehow managed to scare some poor man without actually trying to. And then curiosity overtook him, so he took a step towards that worker, who then in turn took another step backwards to get away. Don't try and run away. I know nothing. We need more than that, sir. There was a loud bang noise from the nearby wall, which they now noticed had a garage door to it. That had just been forced open by a big old police truck that had charged through it, and cops were now spilling in here. Ah, right on time. I thought you said they weren't coming. Well, I lied. Mostly lied. Great, I'm about to be arrested again, aren't I? No, you're with me. You'll be fine. The worker had thrown their hands up in full surrender as a few cops with weapons drawn came charging over towards them. They were fully decked out in armor and whole 9 yards of equipment for a raid that was going to be violent. Put your hands up. Surrender at once. Yep, this is totally not going the way you think it is, Riley. Victor said this as he raised his hands. Well, it should mostly be fine, Victor. The SWAT team were now, though, on them, forcing them to their knees with their hands behind their backs. After a few minutes of being checked, their hands were roughly zip-tied behind their backs, and then they were pulled to their feet roughly and pushed completely out of the building. The ceiling, floor, and walls all looked about the same to Victor as he once again found himself in the holding cell in the police station. There were a variety of criminals here, along with a few workers from the buildings that had been raided. He sat on a bench and recognized a familiar-looking big man that was now approaching him. Oh, hello, Victor said upon seeing the man. And what are you doing here? The big burly man replied. Well, Mr. Criminal, I got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time trying to do a good thing. At least I think I was trying to do a good thing. What about you? Some people needed me to come say hello to some other people, so once again, here I am. How dangerous for everyone, sir. Really is terrible. No one bothers to learn, this man replied. Well, I won't keep you from your job of intimidating those around you. Have fun? Fredo, the goon, pops down right beside Victor, who sat on the long bench that had plenty of room to sit on it on either side and not have to be close to him. He then looks to both sides to make sure that there was actually room and that no one was around him, which turned out to be the case. I think, in fact, you and me, sir, need to have a chat. I concede that everything you say is correct. Chat over? Victor replied. It doesn't go like that, Mr. Victor. Even with me saying that I will never say anything to anyone ever at all? Nope. Well then, I guess, what do you want to tell me then? You'll be leaving here soon. It would be good, and it would be wise, to never speak to anyone about what you've done. The same message you gave me last time, right? Great. Well, what am I supposed to learn from that repeated message? That you need to watch what you say to people. It gets back and it gets around to everybody, and it's just not nice. 2 things. My only way out of here is by talking. 2, no one is going to believe anything I say or do. So you're wasting your breath pretty much. Also, who the fuck do you even work for, sir? I work for For the highest payer, Mr. Victor. And who might that be? Well, right now it's actually someone you know, but it's unimportant for you to know. Can I ask at least one more question then? And does their first name start with the letter R? Freddo grunted yes, rose from his seat, or at least the grunt sort of sounded like a yes to Victor, as the man meandered off as the cell door slammed open. 2 police officers came in, looking about the place. Victor, is there a Victor in here? Victor then took a look around the room to make sure that there wasn't anyone else by that name, and when no one else made a sound or made a move, Victor rose from his seat. What can I help you with? You've been bailed out. Come with us. That didn't sound right to him, but he didn't feel like questioning it either. Not yet, anyway. Once he was outside and thrown back into danger, then, sure. And then it would be time to worry. Once he'd finished with the front desk at the police station lobby and collected his belongings, Victor turned to look about the space. It was empty, mostly empty of people, thanks to the late night hour. A nearby clock read 3 a.m., which made Victor feel very tired, but still concentrated on the issue at hand. No one here looked like they had bailed him out. Officer, of the watch, or whatever it is you do, who bailed me out and where are they? Don't you have rules that say the prisoner has to, that person has to be here? Or is that only a TV and movie kind of thing? All I know is that they said they would meet you outside. I'm not going to make anyone wait in here. It gets busy at random times, and one less body hanging around here is a godsend. Oh! Victor was confused and not sure if that sounded right, or he just headed for the exit thinking it over, absent-mindedly almost, and it was almost too late to do anything about this. And, well, if he was walking into danger, it wouldn't be the first time in a while. Out the front door of the police station, Victor met the cold night sky and a very quiet city around him. He was in the middle of town, and it felt dead. Oh, so dead, that it almost gave him the creeps. He wasn't used to being out here at the night, or even around this area, though it did make it easier to look around for anyone. But to his surprise, he didn't actually spot anyone familiar. If the person who bailed me out could come forward and show themselves to me, please. Mr. Victor. He turned to his right to see the drag bar owner, Cordial, walking towards him, from the sidewalk to his right. How he hadn't noticed the colorful clothes of the owner of the drag bar was, well, beyond him. Oh, hello, Cordial. What brings you here? Well, you do. That doesn't sound good for me. Did you bail me out? Or who told you I was here? She now stood towering a little bit over him as she came to a stop next to him, the nice attitude that she presented at the bar having vanished completely. The people who supply my liquor informed me of the situation. The mobsters running town, who maybe want to stop Stephen? I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes to that, Victor. Well, that's not good at all. They don't want me to talk to anyone, and they keep sending people to make sure that I stay quiet. So are you here to do the same thing? She looked over him doubtfully, and then made a come with me sign by curling her finger. I'm here to help you out, not hurt you. And how do you plan to do that? By telling you some stuff that is going on, but not here. You know what's going on. I've been told some of the stuff, not all of it, but enough to fill you in, but not here. Why not here? I like to be in a place where I know it'll be safe for me. The streets, as calm as they are, will never be a safe spot for someone like me. Victor soon found himself back at the Lucky Loft lounge and bar, which Cordial was the owner and operator of. Or at least he believed she was. He wasn't sure, as he sat behind the same bar he'd been interviewed at by her, and she was behind there, working on some stiff drinks. You feel safe here? Well, it is safer than some places that I happen to know of. Anyway, I promised to talk to you, and that's what we're going to do. This entire situation is a mess, from what I've heard. Yes, and I don't even understand even being a part of it. Were you a part of it, or were you just along for the ride? A bit of both, I suppose. So what are you saying? She nods as she slides a glass with some brown liquid inside of it over to him. Victor glances at it, unsure if he wants it or not. Alcohol and him had never gotten along on the best of terms. A lot of people, including Stephen, have been arrested. Yes, they found him and put him behind bars, and Riley as well for now. Well, that's great, right? Sort of. With a lot of people being arrested, it's hard to know who was charged with what crime. They may skate free since the operation was a bit of a complicated one, and who knows who got caught up in the net of crime. So those private detectives I originally met with were really actually onto something. I mean, I did see some stuff, but along with some other people, yes, they were figuring out what Stephen was up to. And my parents? I don't know them, so I couldn't say for sure, but there was a large operation going on with many people around you involved, so potentially yes, potentially no. I'm sorry, I don't know. Victor found himself frowning at his glass and then to Cordial, since she'd promised an explanation, but it was taking a while to get anywhere near that. You already said the same thing already, so you just don't know? He asked. It's difficult to fully explain without setting up some things. Namely, we need to talk about Ellis. The name instantly registered in Victor's mind, and then slipped right back out as he wasn't willing to accept it. There was something wrong with saying her name in this situation. Still, he now needed to know. What about her? She is involved in this investigation into the bar Stephen owns. From what I've been told and gathered information-wise, she found out all about this, what's going on, and then moved whatever pieces where they needed to go to get the case solved. Namely, you. To bring a bar owner to an end? Or the money business? I'm not even sure what she has to do with any of this. She saw me out, but not after seeing me and my roommates for a good while. For months, maybe a year or so, I don't even remember. Nodding along, Cordial took a sip of her own drink, an apparent move to corral her own nerves. She wanted to get to you so she could get to Stephen. So exactly like Riley and basically Lucy were doing? I think it's actually much worse than that. She was using Riley, maybe Lucy as well. So all of everything around me was just a ploy to get to the bar owner. He was running a lot of illegal operations and had cooperation of quite a lot of people to do what he was doing, and, well, it just isn't pretty. Including high-level government officials? That would be the only way he could really print money as I see it. And he did say something about government access. So, Victor asked. Yes, from what I've been told, that is true. Victor found that he now, indeed, needed this stiff drink, and took a sip of it, grimacing at the lacquered taste as it went down. And why would anyone tell you, of all people, anything about any of this? They wanted me to tell you. Why else would they? Ellis wanted it. She and who I get my supplies from wanted me to tell you, just in case, and I don't know, they just wanted the information passed along. He took another long sip of his drink, hoping to make it last a bit longer in his mouth. Alas, there wasn't much liquid left in that glass, so he had to savor what was there, then swallowed. They were warning me away from saying anything. Is that it? they don't want me to write about this or how I got caught up in all of this madness. I think that's the extent of me talking to you, yes. As I was told by this Fredo, I think that was his name, in the holding cells, no one is going to believe me even if I wrote it all down and had sworn testimony to its truth. With a shrug, she refills his drink, which he took a sip of almost instantly once it was poured. A whole lot of it didn't matter anymore, and they would probably prefer him to lose himself in alcohol than get out there talking about what insanity he'd just seen. Cordial frowned at the sight and almost reached up to stop him from drinking much more. Careful. This is what they want, isn't it? I'll be disgraced despite never having any grades in the first place, and then they can carry on doing whatever it is they were doing. I doubt that would be a very good idea. Victor found himself turning around to see Ellis, who just said this, standing not far away. She was playing with her hands, each fiddling about uncomfortably. My user and abuser is here to tell me that I've done wrong in my life or right by her or whatever. It's a pity I already know the answer, and that amounts to everything I've ever done is wrong. Victor. Yes, what is it, Ellis? I need you to know that this was for the betterment of the world. You just couldn't have told me that straight away. It's not like I could have told anyone, nor, as I've pointed out, would anyone listen to me in the first place, Ellis? No, I couldn't, and I won't apologize for that either. I'll live with what I've done, as it makes society a better place, safer place. There are things we all have to do, even if we do not like them. Noted, Victor said as he shook his head yes. And now I have the great pleasure of saying, go away. You don't have to apologize, and I don't have to accept that. You get to go do whatever you need to go do. It doesn't involve me anymore. I think you happen to need her, Victor. Why would I need her, Cordial? There are people out there who want you dead. He turned to Ellis as she said this. Yes, and my suppliers of alcohol would rather you disappear too, Cordial informed him. Why would anyone want me gone? Already told them I can't do anything. Well, it's better to have no loose ends from their perspective. He then glared towards Ellis again for a second. Is this what happened to my old roommate who just up and vanished? No, he did his own thing and had his own issues. This is another different, separate thing entirely. None of this has anything to do with my former relationship with your roommate. And what about Brody or Sam? They've just been tied up in all of this by proxy, just as I have? Oh, they're already gone, moved to safety and given money to keep things quiet. Victor felt his mouth sort of drop open as he was taking this in, and taking this moment, he just nods appreciatively. It was all very clean, it was all very nice, it was all very tidy, and it stank. Well, that's good. Brody was a good roommate and doesn't deserve this. Victor waves his hand out in front of him. Whatever this is, and Sam, well, he wasn't as nice, but he was a good person mostly, and they don't deserve to be caught in this. And you, what are you going to do? Victor turned back to Cordial and took another stiff sip of his drink, then slapped it down on the bar so he could respond to her question. Oh, that's easy. I'm going nowhere and doing the stupidest thing possible. What would that be, Victor? I'm going to write all of this event down, even though no one's going to believe me, Cordial. He grinned at Ellis as she shook her head. Then he turned back to Cordial and took another stiff drink. Why would you do that? Why not, Cordial? Everyone seems so against it, therefore it might have something to it. Who knows what nerves I will hit? Please, don't. Are you going to stop me, Ellis? He asked her. If it comes to it, yes. And why would whoever you work for do that to me? The government is going to stop me, of course. Who wants to stop a story that reads more like fiction than truth? Just let it go. It's simple. It's easy. Nobody believes anything I've ever done. It only takes one person to decide that you've strayed into the wrong area to end all of this, Victor. They will make things come crashing down on you. The same could be said if I choose to go along with whatever plan you have for me. A person gets tired of protecting me and throws me out to the wolves because they get bored. Neither fate feels like I have much to say in it, but I can at least try and wrestle with one of them. He tried to explain. I would rather you not get yourself killed, but you do what you will. Thank you. I will, Ellis. Now, for you, Miss Cordial, you also have some explaining to do. Why me? All rather simple, and I don't believe you when you say that you aren't involved in this. Or your suppliers are making you do this. It simply isn't believable. Cordial shares a look with Ellis, then back to Victor, with a pained expression on her face. Were you recruited by Ellis over there, or are you a bigger part of all of this? Whatever you do, you can't write about me. I'll keep it vague, but you're a part of this story. Cordial. I'm the one who got pulled into all of this, and I have no way out. So, you, on the other hand, you can vanish to some extent or whatever since you're working for some government agency, or Ellis can pull some nice little tab for you or whatever and get you to escape. To answer your question, I work for whoever pays the most. And who is paying you? I can't exactly give that information out. Not if I want to get my end of things going. No, Victor, but I work for agencies that need an extra hand. And ones that probably shouldn't be working on, the home country or something like that. And we wouldn't suspect or something like that. Oh, everyone suspects that I'm up to something. Some even make claims about it here. Most refuse to look beyond those claims, though, because it would involve dealing with a world that they don't want to be seen around. Victor was sorting that out in his mind and trying to figure out if she meant working at the bar or was something else, and he took a moment to sit there and think it over. This was interrupted by another loud set of footsteps that approached, and so he turned to see Riley coming up. Are you here because you're required to come apologize to me, or you come to make me go do something else? No, I've come here to say that you're finally free of me and my family, and my father. So can I ask one question of you, Riley? Were you and your father in on this plot that Ellis might have concocted, or someone higher up gave the green light to investigating Stephen and his bar? I was part of the planning of it and pulling it off. Victor roughly shook his head. There was still so much to understand, and he doubted he ever would get all of it. The cops and getting into Stephen's home, that was all set up along with going to the lockup and holding cells and whatever? No, that was real. And, your record will be cleared, mostly, Victor. Great. Thanks, Ellis. But it was a setup. Riley's saying it was real, and you're saying my record will be cleared, but it was still a setup. Yes, the cops, the local ones, weren't in on it, because they couldn't investigate if they were, Riley explained. So I will still have a world of legal trouble because I happen to be useful in plunking me in the way. Some of it will go away once it is all explained, and it is being done by my superiors now. But to keep you safe, there may be at least a few hours of community service in your future. He had to shake his head at that, the thought of it. Not only did it not make any sense, it also made him seem like a bad person. Gee, great. Thanks. I did nothing but run around and be forced into situations, and I get community service if I'm a good person, and all of her money printing and laundering and whatever else that they come up with. There is some other stuff going on beyond the scenes, but yes, the money printing was the dominant factor. All of this to capture a criminal, and I simply had to go along with all of it. Is there anything else I should know about any of this, or am I better off not knowing? Probably better off not knowing, right, Ellis? Riley offered. I would say so. You're better off not knowing anything about who we exactly work for. Make wild guesses with your story, but be aware that it could cause you trouble. And this is all going to lead to my demise if I go through with it. Victor growled to them. Well, that's up to you, sweetheart. But know that Ellis, and probably Riley as well as myself, only have your best interest at heart. He looked back at Cordial, took in the last of his drink, and threw it back, savoring the last bit. Once it had gone down, he stood up from the stool that he was sitting on and looked about. This hasn't been particularly nice for me, and you lot seem to be set in your ways of righteousness, so I won't try and change your minds about how wrong all of this is. You're going to tell us it's wrong, but we should feel bad? Is that what you're going for, Victor? Exactly, Ellis. Dragging a person into this matter and then never telling them anything about it, while stringing them along with promises about this and that, is fucking awful. You wouldn't have cooperated if we told you. Also true, but I put it this way, Riley. Would you do what you were told if you were in my position? Would you agree to any of this if you weren't getting something out of it? I'm assuming you're getting something out of all of this. I have a record of certain things that need to be wiped away, so yes, I am getting something out of it, Victor. Well, I think this is goodbye then, Mr. Victor. I wish you well, and I hope you never come across you ever again. He looks to Cordial, who offers a simple way of goodbye as she picks up his glass to clean it out. Because that would be bad for me? Definitely, Cordial said. With a heavy sigh, he begins walking towards the front door. He had no idea what to do next, or if he really was going to survive merely walking out of here. But this was potentially a different tale, and he had this one that he just experienced to get down on paper first, if it ever came together. End of Part 11, and the end of The Lost Rider and his tale. Thank you for listening.